Let me preface this review for Lee Cronin's The Mummy by telling you guys the film isn't a complete disaster, but it's definitely a letdown. I was a huge fan of Lee Cronin's Evil Dead Rise, so when I saw he was going to direct Lee Cronin's The Mummy for Warner Brothers, I was obviously super excited to see what he was going to do with this IP. I mean, he's clearly a very talented filmmaker. He has a very distinct visual style that you can tell. Look, Lee Cronin's The Mummy looks great. The look of the film, the cinematography, the scenes, that's not the problem. The problem is that the script is fucking dog shit. And, unfortunately, my praise for Lee Cronin's The Mummy ends right there with how it looks because beneath the surface of the film, it lacks any real substance at all. The big thing it has going for it is the body horror elements that is the strongest aspect and at times the only thing holding it together. But the script, my God, it's not just weak. It's not just bland, it's just boring and awful at the same time. It feels like the story feels like a patchwork of ideas lifted from films like Evil Dead, which Lee Cronin did direct Evil Dead Rise, so that makes sense. But like randomly, like halfway through the movie, a fucking deadite just shows up in the Mummy. You're like, what the hell is this? So there's a lot of aspects of Evil Dead, The Exorcist, David Cronenberg's The Fly. There's a very good horror film from the 80s called The Changeling starring George C. Scott, which is also in here as well. But like I feel like it just takes this stuff and it doesn't ever form its own story or idea. It just takes those and just mashes it into one movie, and they're just like, we'll just slap the Mummy on it, and we'll see who goes and sees it and whatnot. On top of that, look, characters in horror movies get a pass for being stupid because they don't know they're in a horror movie, but like the film leans very heavily on frustrating character decisions that don't make any sense. Like if you rolled up somewhere like 8 years later and like, hey, this is your daughter, and you saw what Katie looked like, you're like, you know what, send Katie back. I've got two other kids. She's fine with the way she is. Like that is a horrifying image right there. The entire family makes baffling decisions that drag down the tension of the movie that it tries to build at least. And honestly, I can tell you guys this: the original ending for the Mummy, Lee Cronin's Mummy, is not the ending that you see in this version. They completely added a scene at the end of the movie and reworked it after the test screenings were terrible. I can tell you for a fact, don't ask me how. I mean, there's just a disconnect there. And look, I have a theory going that the script for Lee Cronin's The Mummy, look, it says that he wrote it. I feel like this is the dead script for The Exorcist Deceiver, which was supposed to be the sequel to The Exorcist Believer that got canceled before they reworked it and brought in Mike Flanagan and everything like that. It's just very hard to ignore that this doesn't seem like Lee Cronin's original work. And I feel like they just threw his name on there to kind of the studio won't take the blame for this. We'll just blame it on Lee Cronin. But the final verdict for me is a 2.5 out of 5. I really like what I saw. The body horror stuff right there is great, but everything after that is just an abject disaster. Like I'm usually a big fan of gore and blood and disgust and stuff like that, but it just didn't seem necessary for parts of it. Like I just didn't know what I was watching. I expected more. The shock value is definitely there, but not there was no substance to the film.